Life is a puzzle of choices, some good, some terrible, and sometimes the decisions we make in moments of weakness echo for a lifetime. This is the story of a woman caught between love, loneliness, and betrayal. A woman who thought she had finally found peace, until her past returned to test her future. Stay with me till the end, because the twists in this story will leave you shocked, speechless, and asking yourself, what would I have done if I were in her shoes? Jane was a woman who carried beauty with grace. Her laughter could light up a room, but behind that smile lived scars. Scars that only a few could see. Years ago, she had fallen deeply in love with Michael, a man who swept her off her feet with charm and promises. He told her she was his everything. He whispered of forever. She believed him, and in that belief, she gave him all of herself. From that union came a daughter, Amara, Jane's treasure, her pride, her reason for living. But Michael, he walked away. He wasn't ready for marriage, he said. He wasn't ready for responsibility. Jane was left to raise Amara alone. The betrayal cut deep. Nights were long and cold, but she endured, determined to give her daughter a better life. Life as a strange way of rewriting stories. Just when Jane thought her chapter on love had ended, another door opened. Quietly, unexpectedly, it happened on an ordinary afternoon. Jane had gone to the supermarket near her home to buy groceries. The air conditioning greeted her as she stepped in. From the scorching sun outside, Amara, barely 5 years old, clung to her hand, wide-eyed at the colorful shelves stacked with biscuits, cereals, and candies. Jane tried to balance a shopping basket on one arm while holding Amara with the other. She picked items carefully: rice, milk, cooking oil, mentally calculating prices to make sure her money would be enough. By the time she reached the checkout line, the basket was too heavy, and Amara was tugging at her dress, whining, "Mummy, I'm tired. Can we go now?" That was when a voice, calm yet firm, spoke from behind her. "Let me help you with that." Startled, Jane turned and saw him. Collins. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and neatly dressed in a crisp polo shirt and jeans. His presence was steady, commanding attention without arrogance. Before Jane could protest, Collins gently took the basket from her. "You look like you could use a hand," he said with a warm smile. Jane hesitated. Her past experiences had taught her that men rarely offered help without expecting something in return. But there was something about Collins' eyes, honest, steady, that made her pause. As they moved forward in line, Amara tilted her head up at him, curiosity dancing in her big brown eyes. "Are you Mummy's friend?" she asked innocently. Collins chuckled softly. "Not yet," he replied, glancing at Jane with a playful smile. "But maybe one day, if she allows me." The simple exchange made Jane's heart skip. It had been a long time since she'd seen such gentleness directed not just at her, but at her daughter. When they left the supermarket, Collins carried the bags all the way to Jane's small apartment. He didn't linger or impose himself. Instead, he handed her the bags with a polite, "It was nice meeting you. I hope I'll see you again." And he did. Over the weeks, their paths crossed again, sometimes at the same supermarket, sometimes in the neighborhood, and occasionally at church. Each time, Collins greeted Jane with genuine warmth. He never pressured, never demanded, just showed up with kindness, consistently. Then one evening, Collins asked if he could visit. Jane almost refused, but something inside whispered, "Give him a chance." He came bearing thoughtful gifts, books and crayons for Amara, fresh fruits for Jane, and a smile that lit up the small apartment. He didn't sit on the sofa like a guest trying to impress. Instead, he went straight to the floor, playing with Amara, listening to her chatter, fixing a broken toy car as though it was the most important task in the world. Jane stood at the kitchen doorway, her heart heavy and light all at once. No man had ever given her daughter such attention. No man had ever made her feel so seen without saying much. Collins worked as an offshore engineer, spending weeks at sea. Yet, whenever he was home, he poured himself into Jane and Amara's lives, helping with chores, cooking meals, walking Amara to school, and holding Jane close during the quiet nights. For the first time since Michael's betrayal, Jane felt the fragile walls of her heart crumble. With Collins, she didn't just see a man. She saw a future, and the night he held her hands and whispered, "Jane, I don't care about your past. I love you. I love Amara. I want us to build a life together." She believed, truly believed, she had been chosen. But what Jane didn't know was that even the strongest love can be tested, and sometimes the loudest battles are fought not with words, but in the silence left behind. At first, Jane told herself she could handle it. After all, she had lived through far worse. Years of abandonment when Michael left her to raise Amara alone. Compared to that, Colin's job offshore was a blessing, wasn't it? He loved her. He provided. He called whenever he could. But love at a distance is not the same as love in presence. When Collins left for weeks at sea, the house became eerily quiet. During the day, Jane kept herself busy, cooking, cleaning, tending to Amara, and chatting with neighbors. But when night came, when Amara was tucked into bed and the walls echoed with silence, Jane felt the weight of absence pressing on her chest. She would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling fan, hearing it whir endlessly above her. The bed was too big, too cold, too empty. She would roll over and stretch her hand, hoping to feel Colin's warmth, only to clutch the sheets instead. Sometimes she buried her face in his pillow, inhaling the faint scent of his cologne, praying it would last until he returned. Loneliness is not always loud. It is quiet, creeping, and suffocating. Jane began to dread evenings. She tried to fill the silence with television, but the laughter from the screen felt hollow. She tried to call Collins, but poor reception on the rig meant the calls were short, strained, and sometimes impossible. She wrote him long messages that often went unanswered for days, leaving her wondering if he had even read them. On some nights, the loneliness grew so heavy that tears soaked her pillow. She whispered prayers to God, asking for strength, but the ache in her chest remained. She wanted someone to talk to, not about bills, not about groceries, but about her fears, her dreams, her little victories. She wanted to be held, to be touched, to feel alive again. Even Amara, in her innocence, noticed her mother's sadness. One evening, The little girl crawled into bed beside Jane and whispered, "Mummy, don't be sad. Daddy Collins will come back soon." Jane smiled weakly, hugging her daughter tightly. But deep inside she thought, when and will this ache ever end? What Jane did not know was that this loneliness, this silent killer, was preparing the ground for temptation. At first, Jane thought she could handle it. Collins had explained from the beginning. His work offshore demanded weeks at sea, sometimes a whole month, sometimes even longer. He promised to call when he could, and he did. His voice over the phone was always tender, reassuring. But phone calls couldn't hold her at night. Phone calls couldn't wipe her tears when Amara fell ill. Phone calls couldn't fill the emptiness of the house. When the lights went out and silence pressed against the walls. At first, Jane kept busy, taking Amara to school, cooking, attending midweek services. She told herself, "This is love. This is sacrifice. This is what it means to build a future." But slowly, the silence crept in. At night, she would sit by the window, staring at the street lamps outside. She watched couples walking home together, laughing, holding hands. She felt her chest tighten, a hunger for something more immediate, more present. And in that silence, memories of Michael, the man who had once broken her heart, began to whisper. It started innocently. Jane was walking Amara home from school when she heard someone call her name. Jane. She froze. That voice, familiar, unforgettable. She turned, and there he was. Michael. Time had changed him. His once boyish face now bore the lines of struggle, his beard a little unkempt, his eyes tired yet still sharp. He looked at her the way a man looks at a memory he never forgot. For a moment, Jane's heart pounded. She wanted to walk away, but Amara's eyes widened in recognition. "Uncle Michael." The little girl squealed, breaking into a run. Michael bent down and scooped her into his arms. "My princess," he whispered, kissing her forehead. The bond between them was undeniable, no matter how much Jane tried to bury it. Jane stood there, torn. She should have been angry. She should have pulled Amara away. But instead, she found herself frozen, watching father and daughter reunite. Later that night, Jane told herself it was just a coincidence. That seeing Michael again didn't mean anything. But deep down, she knew her heart had stirred. Something dangerous had been awakened. The second meeting wasn't accidental. Michael appeared again, this time near Jane's home. He claimed he was just passing by, but his eyes told a different story. "Jane," he said softly, "I know I hurt you. I know I made mistakes, but I never stopped caring for you, and I never stopped loving our daughter." Jane's chest tightened. Every word from him was like a knife twisting her heart. She wanted to scream, to remind him of the nights she cried alone, of the shame he brought her. But instead, tears filled her eyes, because buried beneath her anger was something she didn't want to admit. Michael had been her first love. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, Michael found ways to slip back into her life. Sometimes he came to see Amara, bringing small gifts. Other times, he lingered, offering to help carry groceries or fix something around the house. Jane tried to resist. She told herself, "Collins is my future. Michael is my past." But loneliness is a cruel companion, and Michael knew exactly how to slip into the cracks of her heart. One evening, when the rain poured heavily outside and Amara had gone to bed early, Michael stayed a little longer. He sat across from Jane, his eyes locked on hers. "You still feel it, don't you?" he whispered. Jane's breath caught. The storm raged outside, but the real storm was inside her chest. She should have said no. She should have stood up and ended it. But instead, she allowed silence to answer for her, and in that silence, everything changed. What began as small conversations grew into stolen moments. Michael knew when Collins was away, and he used that knowledge like a weapon. He came by just to check on Amara. He brought cooked food just to make things easier. He sat with Jane when she seemed tired, his presence both comforting and dangerous. And then, one evening, it happened. Jane didn't plan it. She didn't even want it. But Michael kissed her, softly at first. Then with the passion of a man who knew he still had power over her, Jane tried to push him away. But the loneliness she had carried for so long betrayed her resolve. It wasn't love, not the way Collins gave it. It was weakness. It was escape. It was filling a void she didn't know how else to face. But once the line was crossed, there was no going back. What started as one mistake became two, then three. Soon, Jane found herself living a double life, smiling at Collins on the phone, while hiding the weight of her guilt. Collins wasn't a foolish man. He knew Jane well, her voice, her moods, the way she laughed. When he returned home from one of his trips, something felt different. Jane hugged him, but there was a hesitation in her arms. Her laughter sounded forced. She avoided his eyes when he asked simple questions. At first, he told himself he was imagining things, that maybe Jane was just tired. But the unease grew. He noticed Michael's sudden reappearances. The way Amara mentioned Uncle Michael too often. The awkward silence that followed whenever his name came up. Collins didn't accuse her. Not yet. Instead, he watched. He waited. He prayed that his fears were wrong. But deep inside, he felt the slow rise of betrayal. The night was heavy with silence, broken only by the steady hum of the ceiling fan. The house seemed still, yet underneath that quietness, danger lurked. Michael sat on the edge of the marital bed, his shirt tossed carelessly over the chair, his chest bare. His breathing was slow but restless, his eyes locked on the bathroom door. He should not have been there, yet desire and obsession had carried him past reason. The door clicked open. Jane stepped out, steam drifting behind her. A white towel was tied tightly around her heavy chest, clinging to her damp skin. Her hair was wet, drops sliding down her shoulders. Their eyes met. "Michael," she whispered, her voice trembling, half in guilt, half in longing. Michael rose from the bed and walked toward her. His hand brushed against her arm, then lingered on her waist. Jane's body stiffened, but she did not move away. She breathed heavily, her heart pounding, caught between resistance and surrender. "You still want this," Michael murmured, lowering his head close to hers. Jane closed her eyes as he pulled her into his arms, their bodies pressed together, her towel loosening slightly under his touch. And then ... The bedroom door creaked open. Collins walked in, He had returned earlier than expected, his shirt half unbuttoned from the long journey back. At first, he froze, confused by the sight before him. But within seconds, the truth hit him like a thunderbolt. His wife, wrapped in nothing but a towel. His rival, half-dressed, holding her in the intimacy of their marriage bed. Jesus Christ! Colin's voice was low, but it shook with fury. His chest rose and fell violently as his eyes darted between the two of them. What? What is this? Jane's face turned pale. She pulled away sharply from Michael, clutching the towel tighter to her chest. Collins, it's not. Michael stepped forward boldly, his smirk taunting. It's exactly what it looks like. Colin's entire body trembled, his hands clenched into fists, his eyes burning with rage. You, in my house? In my bedroom? With my wife? He lunged forward, grabbing Michael by the collar, ready to tear him apart. The room exploded into chaos. The bed shook. Jane screamed, trying to hold Collins back. Collins, please, don't, she cried, her voice breaking. But Collins' anger was a storm, uncontrollable, fueled by betrayal. Michael only laughed, even with Collins' fist at his throat. You'll never keep her, Collins. She always come back to me. That laughter broke something inside Collins. His world, his trust, his marriage. It all shattered in a single heartbeat. And Jane, standing in her towel, tears streaming down her face, realized the secret she thought she controlled had just destroyed everything. Michael, pinned against the wall, still wore that smug grin. Hit me, he taunted, his voice dripping with arrogance. Go on, show her what kind of man you really are. Colin's fist trembled in the air, veins bulging on his forearm. Jane, still clutching her towel, fell to her knees, sobbing. Collins, please, don't do this. Please, just listen to me. But Collins wasn't listening. His vision blurred with rage. He had given his heart, his trust, his home, and this was how Jane repaid him. Finally, with a guttural roar, he shoved Michael away, sending him crashing onto the bed. The room quaked with the force of his fury. Get out of my house, Collins thundered, his voice shaking the walls. Michael straightened his shirt casually, dusting off his chest as if Collins' anger was nothing but a nuisance. He glanced at Jane, his lips curling into a smirk. You see, he doesn't deserve you. He never did. You'll always come back to me, Jane. Jane's tears fell harder. Her body trembled. Michael, stop. But Michael didn't stop. He leaned closer, his words sharp and deliberate. Remember, Jane, you chose him, but your body still remembers me. That's why you couldn't resist. The words pierced deeper than a knife. Collins turned away, his jaw clenched, his face hard with pain. Without another word, he stormed out of the room, the door slamming so hard the frame rattled. Jane was left standing there, half naked, her dignity in shreds, staring at Michael. And in that moment, she saw him clearly. The man who once held her heart was nothing but a shadow of arrogance, a parasite feeding off her weakness. He hadn't come to love her. He hadn't come to build her. He had come only to ruin her. Her voice cracked as she whispered, Michael, what have I done? But Michael only shrugged, reaching for his shirt with that same careless smile. You did what you've always done. You wanted me, And now, you'll crawl back to him because you can't survive without him. Jane froze. The final piece of truth dropped heavy into her soul. Michael didn't love her. He never had. She had destroyed her marriage for nothing. And for the first time, Jane felt not desire, not temptation, but utter, consuming disappointment. She had lost Collins. She had lost her dignity. And the man she had gambled everything for had nothing real to offer her.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to this channel. Turn on the notification bell icon so that whenever we drop a video, you'll be notified. Thank you.